As I did with Chrissy Nelson, he'd helped me out on Thursday. I was so worried. I mean, and they were damned if they did, and they're damned if they didn't. And the bottom line was they could have moved to the Eagle Farm, and what happened?
Yeah, they were off. They were off first.
They washed out. Unbelievable. You're off first, yeah. So, anyway, it's back on Friday night, so that'll give you plenty of grist for the mill during the week, Marty.
Oh, it certainly will, and we'll look forward to bringing that to our listeners. Enhanced broadcast of those remaining. Well, are they adding to the meeting, or they just go with what was left?
I think so. I think they're the words of the steward was that we're going to add the races that weren't run yesterday. They're not abandoned. We're going to add them to the program on Friday. So they must have had a couple already there. It's sensational, isn't it? And just looking at it, even though the weather was chronically bad, it really looked fantastic. So I'm looking forward to it Friday night. I can't wait to sit back and have a cool one and watch them go around.
Yeah, that is for sure. And Chris Nelson.
You get a share of that horse. What did it go for? 3.4 million?
3.2. 3.2. Yeah. Not for me. Home Affairs, first season sires. Well, he's been really popular, hasn't he? Home Affairs. Out of Sunlight, of course. 3.2 million, the new sale top price. Their average is now 272k, median price at 200. The gross, 205 mil, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. And the clearance rates got back up to 81.64. It did drop down to the high 78s.
Yeah, well early.
Yeah, so it always comes back, the sale.
You know it inside out. I have a passing interest in the breeding side of things, but how many different sires are there? It's incredible. I mean, Gerald bought a couple, and I thought, I've never heard of these two. So who are these sires? Where do they come from? It's quite remarkable. It's a plethora. It's like craft beer.
It's a good analogy, Brad. Craft beer and yearlings. Yeah, I'll get it. Our special guest, Simon Hill, joins us. A very good morning, Simon.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're going well. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Hey, before we go anywhere, you go.
I just want to ask Simon. So I knew me and Marty are all in the relatively the same vintage. So I can recall staying up on a Saturday night when I was a kid to watch the FA Cup final. Ooh. Because it was the only game we saw. Hasn't it come a long way?
Yeah, well, not in a good way, probably.
No.
When I was a kid, even growing up in England, it was one of the very few games that we got live in England in those days. And it used to be a whole day of TV programming surrounding the Cup final. There was Cup final Mastermind and all sorts of Cup finalists and knockouts, and it was a real special occasion. But it's changed. The Premier League has sort of taken over, and FA Cup's been relegated a bit down the list, certainly for the big clubs. But it's still special, but more so for the smaller clubs when they get to get a big payday, and one or two did yesterday, although not great results for them.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the biggest upset. My boys, Brentford, go down to Plymouth Argyle, 0-1.
Oh, dear.
What league's Plymouth Argyle in?
They're in the Championship, but they're bottom of the Championship. They've just sacked Wayne Rooney as their manager. That's his second crack at a head manager's job, and he's failed on both occasions. The first one was at Birmingham City, but clearly it was a good move to get rid of him because they knocked out a Premier League team. Michael Whittaker was the only goal. They're known as the Pilgrims, Plymouth, because, of course, it's where Sir Francis Drake launched his boats against the Spanish Armada back in the 1500s and somethings. So that's a massive win for them. They have a new manager, Miron Muslic, watching on from the stands. But that's a big blow, I think, for Brentford because they're one of the clubs that could be capable of maybe going on and winning a trophy. And the FA Cup is, surely their best or one of the best opportunities they've got to do that. But they've not got a good record in the Cup of late. That's the third consecutive season they've been knocked out in the third round.
Wolves 2 defeated Bristol 1, and your boys played a bit of a minnow team. Do they have a goalkeeper?
Salford.
Man City beating Salford City, the first ever meeting between the two, 8-0. This is the club that is owned, of course, by a whole clutch of Manchester United heroes from the past: Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, David Beckham. They took over the club a few years ago, which was struggling in the lower reaches of non-league football in England, and got them consecutive promotions. And they've been in the league since 2019. They've rebuilt the stadium. Actually had 5,000 fans at the Etihad yesterday, which is bigger than their ground capacity. So I don't know how that works, but shows that there's potential for the club. But City on a different level, of course, 7 times FA Cup winners. Jack Grealish netting his first goal in a year from the penalty spot, which is good for his confidence. James McAtee with a hat-trick, Jeremy Doku with a couple. And I did love the quote from the Salford City boss, Carl Robinson, after the game. He was asked by a reporter what lessons he'd learned from the tie, and his answer was quite straightforward: not to win in the second round, which I thought was a great answer. The other game that you mentioned, Bristol City 1, Wolves 2. Wolves taking a break from their relegation battles, of course. They have won the Cup in the past, but not since 1960. And they could have been forgiven for putting out a weak team, because they've got to play Newcastle in the Premier League on Wednesday. But they put out a very strong lineup. All the goals in the first half: Ryan Ait-Nouri and Rodrigo Gomez for Wolves, Stephen Twine for Bristol City. Wolves reached the quarterfinals last year, and it looks like they're taking it seriously again, which is good because the FA Cup needs that.
Yeah, Liverpool 4 over Accrington, Stanley 4-0, as you said. Also Chelsea 5-0 over Morecambe, and Notts Forest 2 over Luton 0. They continue their good form away from the normal EPL season.
Yeah, well, that's Forest's 7th consecutive win against Luton. Goals from Ryan Yates and Ramon Sosa. They've got Liverpool at home in the Premier League on Tuesday, so they made 11 changes, but were still too good for Luton, who parted company with their boss, Rob Edwards, during the week. A little bit of trivia for you. This was a repeat of the 1959 FA Cup final, which was the last time that Forest won the Cup. And in amongst the Forest team that day was a player called Roy Dwight, who was the cousin of Elton John, real name Reg Dwight.
Reggie Dwight, yeah.
So that's a little bit of trivia for you.
Yes.
The other games that you mentioned, Liverpool beating Accrington Stanley 4-0. This game got a lot of publicity in the build-up because, and again, this probably won't mean too much to Australian listeners, but back in 1989, there was a very famous TV advert in the UK from the Milton Marketing Board that featured both clubs and really put Accrington Stanley on the map nationally. But in terms of on the field, the gap was way too big. They're 86 places below Liverpool in the league. Diogo Jota, a real special goal from Trent Alexander-Arnold, 1 each for Jayden Danns and Federico Chiesa, earning Liverpool safe passage. And similar story at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea far too good for Morecambe, who are bottom but one in League Two, which is the 4th tier. A double from Tosin Adarabioyo, the defender from outside the box. Christopher Nkuku with 1, and a double from Joao Felix for a Chelsea team that showed 10 changes from their regular Premier League lineup. But just to go back to what I said at the start about the big payday, Morecambe reckon they earned about £350,000 from that one game alone. So that'll keep them going for a year or two.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it, for those battling clubs down below. Now, look at 3 games coming up, and Tamworth. Tell me about Tamworth. They're playing Spurs. Give us some info on Tamworth.
Well, Tamworth are a team from a little town in the West Midlands. They've only got promoted to the National League, which is the 5th tier in England, the one below the league system, from the National League North last season, which is the 6th tier of English football. They've never been to the 4th round before. Very tight little ground called the Lamb. They've beaten 2 league sides, Huddersfield and Burton Albion, to get to the 3rd round for the 4th time in their history. And they play Ange Postecoglou's Spurs, who, of course, have just beaten Liverpool 1-0 in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final midweek, despite having an awful lot of injuries. This is going to be an interesting game. I mean, Spurs are heavy favourites, and if they play to their potential, they'll win. But it won't be pleasant for them. Rickety changing rooms, a small, bumpy pitch, a hostile crowd. So it's what the Cup is made of, really. But if you're asking me who I'm tipping, Yeah, Tottenham.
They're $1.11. $1.11, $19 Tamworth, $9.50 the draw. Okay, Arsenal are playing Man U. This is real. 173 Arsenal, 380 draw, Man U 450.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, to be honest. Arsenal are in decent nick at the moment, even though they lost the first leg of their Carabao Cup semi-final to Newcastle 2-0 at home during the week, after which Mikel Arteta blamed the ball, which is a new one. Arsenal have won the last two meetings between the two sides. And Manchester United, you know, they're having a very tough season. Obviously, new manager, Ruben Amorim, trying to get things going, trying to get the players playing the system he wants to play. Does he have those players? I don't think so, to be honest. They've got a very good draw at Anfield last week, probably their best display under the new manager. But I think this is one step too far for them. I think United will lose this, and I think the biggest issue for Amorim over the next few weeks is using the transfer window to his best ability. I reckon they'll look to offload the likes of Marcus Rashford and maybe Casemiro, one or two others, and look to bring in some of the types of players that he needs to play the system that he wants.
Okay, and final game to look at, Newcastle, $1.10, draw $10.50, Bromley, $18.
Yeah, I think $18 is probably a bit generous as well, to be honest. Bromley, another one of the new clubs in the league, only promoted to League Two this season. They're doing all right. They're mid-table. There's a bit of an Australian link as well. Carl Jenkinson plays for them, ex-Melbourne City and Newcastle Jets. He went back home during the off-season. He's actually won the Cup with Arsenal back in 2014, but if Newcastle are to lose this, they've got to have a serious off day. They're on a run of 7 consecutive victories at the moment, absolutely flying. They're another club who should be looking at the FA Cup as a trophy that they could possibly win. They haven't won it since 1955, and that's way too long for a club their size. So Newcastle will win this one quite comfortably.
Oh, Simon, sound the bugle. It's 6:26 a.m. in the morning in the beautiful West, and Perth Glory is still doing a victory lap.
Yes.
Wow.
Finally.
Against Auckland, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, again, you know, the team that was top of the league as well going into the weekend. Their first home victory since February last year, so it's been a long wait between drinks for Glory fans. So if they're still doing that lap of honour, they deserve it because they've been through a lot. Jalen Pearman's first senior goal in just his third senior game decided it. They got a bit of luck in the second half. Auckland missed 2 gilt-edged opportunities. But perhaps they've earned that little bit of luck. And, things on the up a little bit, I think, for Perth. They were poor during the week at Sydney, but again, they've got a big January transfer window coming up. There's rumours that a couple of Japanese defenders are heading to WA. Patrick Woods is rumoured to be going there on loan from Sydney FC, which might give them a little bit more attacking firepower as well, alongside Adam Taggart. But let the Glory fans just savour that win. They don't come around too often at the moment, so that was huge for them. Well done.
Some of the other results: Melbourne City beat Brisbane Roar 1-0, and Melbourne Victory 3, lost to Western United 4, and Phoenix 1, Adelaide United 2.
Yeah, and also Sydney beating Central Coast Mariners by 4-1. That was the game I was doing last night. A hat-trick for Adrian Segatic off the bench. That's the second time a Sydney player scored a hat-trick this week. Not sure if that's been done before by the club. Adelaide United went top very briefly after defeating Wellington Phoenix 2-1 away from home. Goalkeeping howler from Josh Oluwayemi, handing Luka Jovanovic the winner in the second half. But they're only top for a couple of hours because Melbourne City defeated Brisbane by the only goal, Ben Mazzeo, with the only goal of the match on 65 minutes. And City go top, which is extraordinary, really, because they've got so many injuries, particularly in attack. So Aurelio Vidmar's doing a terrific job there with City. As for Brisbane, still winless after 12 games this season. I think it's 14 or even 15 now, all told, that they haven't won, and the pressure surely starting to build on Glory's old boss, Ruben Zakovic.
What about this really good game today? Jets play Macarthur, 243, 390 the draw, 243. So are there goals in this game?
Yeah, you'd think so. And to be honest, I think the bookies have got those odds right, because when I looked at this game ahead of coming on the show, I couldn't really pick a winner. MacArthur are very good on the road this season. They're unbeaten on the last 5 away trips, but they can't win at home. The Jets can't win at home, but they did beat Brisbane away during the week, and they almost did for Sydney. The game before that, they were 2-0 up before a late comeback from the Sky Blues. So, difficult one to pick, to be honest. I'd be sitting on the fence and plumping for the draw, but yeah, there might be a few goals, so maybe go for the high-scoring draw.
Gee, it's a busy period because they're on again on Tuesday. Glory playing Western Sydney Warriors, and then Sydney FC, who've scored 7 goals in 2 games, play on Wednesday.
It's it's that period of the year where they stack the games in quite thickly because obviously a few people are still on holiday. Maybe not next week, but certainly they were over Christmas. So they're looking for that little boost in crowd attendance, which is understandable. And also, it's a 27-game season, and we all know the issues with stadium availability once the other codes get going in March. So. They front load a lot of these fixtures, and it's tough on the squads, particularly with some of the travel that's involved in a country as big as Australia. But that's football, and in most places around the world, you play twice a week, so they've got to get on with it.
Now, I'm not letting you go before you explain this one. On Tuesday, Millwall play Dagon Red.
Dagon Red. That's Dagenham and Redbridge.
Okay.
A non-league club. They were actually in the league for a few years, and I've actually commentated a game at their ground at a freezing FA Cup tie in January. And I think my toes were about to drop off because it was about -6 and I was stood on top of a gantry. So Millwall will be the strong favourites. They're the league club at home. But again, the magic of the Cup because Dagenham and Redbridge will probably take about 3,000 or 4,000 fans there, which is probably about twice their average. But that's what the Cup engenders for those smaller clubs.
Simon, always good. We'll do it again next week.
Well done, Simon.
Good on you guys. Have a good week.
Simon Hill there. Right, we better get to this Retrovision text line for your man, Group 1 Morts. What's that deal he's got going? $400 back.
$400 back on all the big name Fujitsu, etc., Tico, anything. Go in there and you get up to $400 cash back. This is the right time to buy, Marty.
What about for a ceiling fan? Does that work as well or not? I'm trying to work out a way I can make some money out of this.
Well, you can get ceiling fans, but they do vary in price.
Okay, this is from Snoz. He's one of our best. Good morning to you, Snoz, and a happy best of seasons greetings to you. The Nick Kyrgios so-called injury will be an easy way out when he looks like being defeated. You can read this guy like a book. That's from Snoz. What are your thoughts on Nick?
I'm with you. You know what I'm thinking. And I'm not bashing. He can do what he likes. I don't really care. But it sounds like I do, but I don't. And good luck to him. He's going to have an itch. He won't be able to scratch when he's our age, Marty. He'll just say, what could have been? Well, I didn't win a major. What am I doing? Mate, he is frightened to lose. That is my thing. You've got to have a good balance of what I call the will to win and the fear of failure. The fear of failure totally outweighs the will to win, and he'll come up with any excuses, Noz says, beforehand, because he'll say, I'm ready. I'm going to play through pain. I beat the world number 90. I'm into the second. I got beat. I did come in underdone. No, stop it.
Okay, you're going to have to help me here, bro. This is from Wayne at Gero. He's normally very good. Wayne up there in Geraldton. Morris. Was it a CA decision for him not to play? Spores. Why play him if he's only going to bowl 1 over?
In the scorches last night?
Yeah, must be.
I think he's referring to. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Yeah, it was an interesting one. I didn't see the beginning of the game. I was out at dinner, but I nearly choked on my dinner when I saw Steve Smith hitting them all over the ballpark. And unfortunately, it was a game we just weren't going to win, Marty. But we'll decode that a little bit more later for him.
Yeah, okay. BBL action continues today, and we'll have a look at those prices right now before we go for a break. And we've got
just on that, I mean, Steve Smith got 100 and Short got 100 for the Adelaide Strike. It was a mammoth night for score, huge scores in the BBL. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Okay, it's the Melbourne Derby today. Renegades play the Stars. They're $2 a Renegades. The Stars $1.80. 26 minutes away from 7 o'clock. Coming up next is Chris Nelson.
Revision. It's Sunday morning. Tab Radio Racing and Sport is turned on. And you are listening to the dulcet tones of Marty Young and Brad Hardie on the Aftermath.
Yes, Bradley, about to catch up now with Chris Nelson, who was in stunning form yesterday before the rain arrived. I reckon he was set to tip about 8 from 10. Very good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Brad. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely have... Well, I had 2 of the first 3, so I was looking at 9 when they called it off. So
that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Hey, Chris, we were in constant contact all week, as you were with Marty, and we both agreed that they were damned if they didn't, damned if they didn't. Well, in the end, it didn't matter because Eagle Farm was called off, and unfortunately, the Gold Coast had to be too.
Yeah, well, you saw that rain yesterday. It was amazing because most people said, oh, you should have just shifted it to Eagle Farm. You know, it would have been the easy way out. And look, it probably would have been, but no one would have expected Eagle Farm to get abandoned as it was as well. And they got a stack of rain early in the morning. And then once that rain hit the Gold Coast, they tried on a couple of occasions just to sort of tread water, so to speak, and put some races back, and hopefully they had the lights they could use. But look, if they had have hung around and kept going, I can tell you an hour or so later it poured down even more, so it wouldn't have panned out. So off to Friday night we go, which will make Friday night pretty exciting.
Are they going to just run those races that weren't run yesterday on Friday night, or are they adding to it?
Well, that's a good question, Marty, because I did read some stuff yesterday where trainers were asking for a couple of extra races because of all the races they've lost. Yesterday at Eagle Farm, of course, we lost 8 races, so they were trying to get a couple added on just to give some of those horses a run. But they may, so a decision hasn't been made there, and it also hasn't been made of what we're doing with the Sunshine Coast meeting, which was originally scheduled for next Friday night. So what happens to that? So watch this space. We'll probably get answers on that today or tomorrow. I think they'll probably just go a boutique meeting on Friday night with the 7 races, and it is pre-entry. So if anyone wants to jump in their car over there, they might make it in time for the pre-entry on Friday night.
Just on the Gold Coast, just on the Gold Coast meeting yesterday, Chris, in race 2, there was one they didn't forget to back called Slippin' Jimmy. Tim Clark straight in the front and previous position. It looks like it's a pretty handy horse.
Yeah, pretty handy horse. David Van Dyke trains and only lightly raced. Now, the funny thing about yesterday was and look, I've got egg on my face, and I'm probably not the only one. We all thought that the rails would not be the place to be. It would not be the place to be. We'd be running on down the outside. But those 3 races that were run, they were heavily on pace and heavily against the inside, or 1 or 2 off the fence. So Slippin' Jimmy, who I thought from gate 1 might be in trouble, well, he ended up in the right spot, and he was too good for them, as was the 3rd race winner, guys. This was off the map.
Was it ever?
Typical Liam Birchley, old school style plunge. It had trialled really well, and went up something like $18 on Tad Touch, I think, when the markets opened. Ended up going around at $4.80, and just got there. Someone said on X or Twitter that Nikita Berryman's riding over the last 50 metres to get it home was reminiscent of Mick Dittman. Well, I'm glad she got it done anyway.
I tell you what, I'm glad you brought that up, because Richie and I watched that. She was riding against Craig Williams, and that was a soul-stirring battle. And I thought, who's riding this Amosu again? And look back at Nikita Berryman. It was a damn good effort. She lifted the horse up to beat Williams on that occasion. Now, so this brings me to another question to you, Chris, is you got it wrong, thinking the rails would be off, but you've tipped 2 of the first 3. How does that work?
Well, when I did the original tips I did my tips originally in the Wednesday morning, so very early. So
Jeez, you go early.
I was thinking we might be on that way we might be on a good to soft track, so it might not be that bad. But you know what, Marty? Sometimes you just got to throw these barriers out the window and go with the horse you think is going to win the race, because it screws you over time and time again.
Follow the 3rd horse in limbo, because he's just got to be taught that when the gates open, you're supposed to come out. That'll be good.
Who, the horse or the jockey?
The horse. He's done it in both trials, and he did it again yesterday. He feels like it's a handicap race, but we've got to give everyone else a start. Anyway, that's okay. But talk about on pace and on fence. Wyong. Oh my God! He had to be on speed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's typical the way Wyong plays, but I must admit it was a bit disappointing for a Saturday meeting to have on pace be as dominant as it was. And you look at the sectional splits of most of these races, and they're running home in 33s in the better races. So it's impossible for any runner to make any ground. So I don't know what we do with the format of the meeting. There's a couple there probably worth following, but yeah, I'm not really sure.
Well, let's have a look at race 1. Obviously, a good result there for the Annabelle Neesham Rob Archibald team.
Yeah, Kajenga, straight to the front, jumped like a greyhound, and that's the place to be, as we just mentioned, and never looked like being caught. Although Damien did a good job late to try and get home over the top of it. Namaste was disappointing. I thought just peaked on the run inside the 100-metre mark, and Barbarossa was the one they backed heavily from the Cummings yard, James Cummings. It sat outside Kajenga and it just gave up pretty meekly before they got to the home turn. So I'd say it's probably better than that. There was no abnormalities found post-race. The market suggests it's got some ability, but yeah, we'll forgive that run and back up next time maybe for those punters with Barbarossa.
Our friends at Tab Touch normally get it pretty right today, and they did yesterday. But I do like the challenge, and they were potting Bonita Queen in race 5. But
wow!
Just how far? How far? Just jump from the outside, cruise across, and the rest is history.
Well, she's got ability, and she's got a touch of class, and she's always had that. And she hadn't won first up previously, so I suppose that was one of the reasons maybe they decided to take her on. But you could see last preparation she'd improved nicely, and she's only lightly raced. So this time around, first up, she was probably going to be a different proposition than she was. She was heavily back. She led throughout, suited by the speed of the tempo and the pattern of the day. Audette did a good job, chased in vain. Dollar Magic just got too far back and was one to make some ground. And I did spot one there I don't think's far away, and it's called Landwin. Ended up running 5th, beaten 2.3 lengths, one of Chris Waller's. That was the third up run. I would say is probably ready to go now, Landwin, so it's one to follow.
Yeah, race 6, and most of the pundits had Lady Zim or Invader Zim as their best of the day. But you just didn't want to watch that. You don't want to watch that. But Headley Grange looks a pretty exciting horse, and the Hippo out of my Romanus, he's riding really, really well.
Yeah, he is, and apparently this horse was all set to go to Hong Kong at one stage, but there were some issues there, and ended up sale fell through. So stays with Joe Pride. And doing a good job, particularly the fact I was watching this on the TV free race yesterday. He was playing up like nobody's business in the yard and onto the track. He really had a bee in his bonnet, this horse. So he did a good job to win. So all honours with him. Impercent ran on well. Point and Shoot was wide without cover from the 800-metre mark. Invader Zim, the one you mentioned there, Brad, I reckon just got into a really bad spot. 3 back on the fence around Wyong on a day where they're not making much ground was quicksand, basically. And I think the jockey, if you read the steward's report, agrees with that, and he may have erred in letting that, or not being aggressive as he could have been early on. So I wouldn't be sacking Invader Zim, but he was costly.
Joe Pride goes back to back. Alicia Collett,
tough.
First leg of a back-to-back double as well, with Bullets High getting the money here in the 2100.
Yeah, he's been a bit of an enigma, hasn't he? He's been very, very consistent, but he just hasn't been able to break through. But yesterday was the day, so well-deserved win for Joe Pride. Good ride from Alicia Collett. He said, as you said, Marty, had a really good day. The favourite there, the one that I was quite keen on, Zaphod, ended up running 7th, really didn't put him down the straight. I would suggest 2,100 metres now, looking back, is too far for him. He'd won up to 1,800 metres, and he'd won those quite okay, but I think the 2,100 stretched him out. So I think you'll see him back in distance next time around, and a wet track wouldn't do him any harm either. He likes the wet.
Race 8, the change of tactics for the winner here. Normally it's Invader Zim. It's 3 back, 4 back the fence, but Waterford, beautifully handled by Alicia Collett for Chris Waller.
Yeah, she absolutely rode this a treat. Jumped from a wide gate, got it across 1 by 1. First 4 out were the first 4 home. They just reversed their order here, so nothing made any ground. He's hard to catch, isn't he? He's run, I know he's been going around in better races, but he's run 13th, 4th, 12th and 8th. He was dropping back from the 2000 last time out. That probably helped, but as I said, he was a hard one to catch. And look, in the run, you'd probably be happy with yourself, but on paper, he was difficult to find. So Waterford got the job done. Robusto was brave, heavily back on speed, did a good job. Redbreast, I thought, was disappointing. Just doesn't really finish its races off at the moment, Redbreast. Every chance from the inside, every chance from the gun run behind the leader.
Got one on
this one in the last. Sorry, Marty.
Yeah, I've just one off the text line. Brad from Lee. Yep. He wants, does Chris know, does Alicia Collett go out with Luke Marlowe? I've got no idea.
That's a good question. I've got a feeling she might.
Right.
I'm not 100% on that, but you know what? I'll try and find that out.
We're working on it, Lee. Very important.
And and the race 10 to run out the program. I'm sure this will be one. Oh, it's just no. It was short and it should win, but it looks like it's got a future, this horse, Yorkshire.
Yeah, well, ran into Accredited first up, and we saw what Accredited did last Saturday. It ran, we absolutely bolted in, and this one did the same. So they are two promising horses, but Yorkshire was very good first up. Lightly raced, terrific record, bolted in here, will continue to go through its grades. Is a good horse to latch onto, I would say.
What about the jocks?
Type up with it.
The jock's all right to latch onto as well. Billy Loughnane.
Yeah, he's going all right, isn't he? I think he's going back to Ireland, though, now. I think that's the end of his
he done, is he?
Yeah. Out here.
They'll start heading back soon. They've got Flat will really start to pick up March and April. They need to get on their horses that they would have ride in those earlier meetings. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise. But they have a good working holiday out here.
Oh, I'll tell you what, some of these Irish jockeys, we've got one up here, Luke Dempsey. They've got aggression.
Yep.
In a tight finish, they are terrific to have. Yeah, underside. Now, I'm just looking at this and I'm seeing a photo with Luke Marlowe and Alicia Collett. Looks like they're going out. Yeah, I think so.
What's that on X?
No. Hang on.
Only fans.
KentuckyBride.com. I might be in the wrong country.
Hey, Chris, horses to follow?
Actually, no. His partner is Alicia Collett, so I can confirm that.
There you go. Good on your Lee.
Horses to follow. Bonita Queen and the other one I mentioned out of that other race, Land Win, race 5, Bonita Queen, Land Win. I'm sticking with Invader Zim. I'll give him another chance. And I thought Yorkshire obviously was very good out of the last. And we won't really follow any out of the Gold Coast at this stage. Maybe that 2-year-old and maybe Slip and Jimmy, but they'll be well found.
What was the one that found the distance too far and you're going to drop it back? Zaphod.
I'm
going to keep an eye on it.
Out of race number 8.
I like your theory there, Chris. Now, I'll tell you what we'll do on Friday drive for this meeting, doing drive. We'll ring you up before each race. You'll be our special consultant at the course to our listeners.
I don't mind. I'm always happy to help out.
It's just going to cost us a lot. It'll blow the budget, Chris. That's the only thing.
I'll do it for nothing.
Oh, thanks, mate. You're a star. Listen in on Wednesday.
Will do.
There he goes, Chris Nelson. Here's a ripper. Time for a break. Ralphie's up.
Racing and sport from different angles. You are listening to The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Different angles. Racetrack Ralphie joins us. Very good morning.
Good morning, boys. Yeah, good morning. Stanley State Flemington yesterday. Played all right. Track played well. And thankfully, the Magic Millions Day is going to be on Friday this week because it means we get better jockeys back here.
Yeah. Hey, good morning, Ralphie.
That was tested yesterday.
Good morning, Ralphie. I was surprised you saw the races yesterday. I thought you would have been around at Petrarca's house putting ice on his rib.
Well, that's right. Doing the pod that I do with Dane Swan, Brad, he has got a good theory that you shouldn't do pre-season, and I think Christian's done a pre-season, so this just gives him a freshen up. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So bring us. I'm unaware of this. What's happened?
So he's had a crack rib, unfortunately, at training. But if it's minor, given how hard he was pushing himself at that insane Red Bull training camp in October. Maybe it's just a freshen up, and I dare say he'll be okay. So, fingers crossed.
What was your take on headquarters yesterday?
Track played really well. I know I was being facetious at the start, but yeah, the depth of the jockeys were really tested yesterday. A couple of pretty poor rides, but we saw them okay on a couple of them, and I think there's a couple of horses to follow we can find as well.
What does your data tell you about the first race? Because I looked, there was some live chances there. Many of the pundits wanted Stormy Grove. I thought Zappo on its previous performance was going to be hard to beat, but Zorro's Flight for Paddy and Michelle got the money.
Yes, well, you and I could beat Usain Bolt over 100 metres if he gave us a good 90, 95 metres head start, Brad. And that's pretty much what the caper was. I mean, you have a look at race 7 was 1:21.9. And this race was 8 lengths slower. So in the end, you're going to be pretty hard to beat up front. Zarpo, good luck to the soldiers who took the odds on there. No thanks, because that's just there were times to take odds on. That wasn't one of them. And Stormy Grove, just made its run from about Kensington. Probably should have been a little bit closer with the run, and I think we could black book it in a big way. Stillby Grove actually reminds me of Dunkeld from a couple of years back.
Okay.
Out the back, worked home. I think it's got some staying upside.
So you haven't done anything to deflate Brad's theory on stablemates at the better price beating the other stablemate who's shorter in that little review of that race?
No, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't do that. And congratulations to the stewards who said that Stella by Starlight probably shouldn't be in the city anymore.
Oh, good. They worked that one out.
It was under the 200 to 1.
I was really pleased with the winner of race 2, named after Marty. I thought it was quite special.
Absolutely. And this was findable. Its sale run was really strong.
Yes.
Like best last 600, 400 and 200 a day. Yes, off a soft tempo, but they're real smart horsemen, Button and Young, and they wouldn't have ran it if they didn't have an opinion of it. And then Daniel Moore has ridden this an absolute peach, and ditto John McNeil and Sigiriya Rock. Choosing to go back from wide, it was the right decision. The pace was on up front. Big shout out to Shane Foley, who was 3 wide from barrier 3 throughout on leg drive. Probably just needs a little bit of improvement there, young Shane. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the first two in a strong distance race have got some staying upside as well.
Yeah, race number 3, the mile, and Paddy and Michelle strike again with Tommy Preble, Smoking Princess.
Marty, I just got to check my notes. This was actually a barrier trial. Which race are you referring to here? I know. What was going on here? Honestly. They're honestly, if you're in a race, don't do what they did. So this was some terrible rides here up front. They were going as slowly as possible. They were checking off heels. The stewards rightly asked questions of Rose Hammond. Why, when you're 3 wide, do you think it's a good idea to go 4 wide on the turn for no reason whatsoever? So anyway, Smoking Princess, Tom Preble had a very good day. I'll get to another one of his rides. Got it right. Others got it wrong. John McNeil, don't know why he was happy to be 3 back the fence early, and he was stuck beyond stylish. But Smoking Princess, if they ran her next week at Flemington, she'd probably win again because that was a barrier trial.
The Philip Stokes stable's going pretty well at the moment, Ralphie. They had a state-to-state double there yesterday. Tara Mansour in the Stars race.
Yeah, he's a beauty, Philip, isn't he? And he gets his horses fit and they keep going. I thought maybe one more run for Tara Mansour, but the market disagreed and the market was right.
Yep.
I want to give a shout-out again to Tom Preble here. This was a beautiful front-running ride in Newfoundland. We just spoke about apprentices getting it wrong up front. Well, he just let this horse roll, gave it every possible chance, and he'll probably find a win in Newfoundland soon. The others are all pretty well-exposed types. So the Tara Mansour, he's a veteran, but, at this time of year, you can win again with that type of run. But really impressed with the ride on Newfoundland.
It does pay to listen to Racing.com's pre-race interviews sometimes. They got hold of Philip Stokes, and he basically declared it. So
no, right.
Our listeners listening in should have been all over it. Race number 5 over the 1,000 metres, New York Luster for Anver and Jamie Carr.
Yeah, so it was seriously fast at Seymour. I don't really worry about the margins. I'll just look at the clock, and I had zero doubt about it on times. I just wonder, I'm just talking about whether you want to take an odds-on price. This is not saying I thought it was vulnerable, but I just wanted to see it, given it was 13 days after that big win and also first time up the straight, but it's done it well. 57.3, that's flying. And the other horses have got a bit of a talent. That Alina Montero was good on debut, and Booney was going to give it a race. So I think that's a nice progression there, 2 or 3 weeks off, and that's speed in the legs. It can run out 1,200. He's got a nice one here. Obviously had some issues, given it's a 5-year-old lightly race, but this is one of the horses to follow from the meeting.
Race 6 was a good half a dozen, 7 chances in this race, and one long day went out a little bit over, as I thought, but good one for the novelties. Yeah,
well, John Allen's got the key to this mare. One on her at at Moonee Valley. A couple of starts back here. 2.3 lengths between them. Benchmark 70, some pretty basic types. And again, shout out to the soldiers who wanted to take $3.80 in Pseudo. No thanks.
Name dropper. First up, I think it's 3 from 3. Richard Lamming and Blake McDougall. Get the money.
One of my favourite lines here, Marty. Sir Richard Branson once told me you should never name drop. It got a very soft lead here, and they'll be delighted with it. First up, and it won first up last prep. A few jockeys forgot that the idea of a race is to win, not to try and get all important cover. So some of those who they did a very good job getting cover, they just didn't get a very good job of winning. So I think Flying Fizz can improve out of this. Arcana was a good first up run. Flying Mickey was in all sorts of trouble. And Georgie Get Mad, let the horse roll. Don't dictated to, and it's going to be its chance of winning a race like this. But yeah, pretty much Summer Whackers here. Flying Fizz probably wins if it got out earlier.
Race 8 from the west. We're always cheering for the Stefan Vahala trained Aztec rule, and nearly got there.
Well, Brad, I thought anything shorter than 1,201 metres was too short for it, right? So, and then that was the difference, that tiny little bit of distance. But obviously, I'm being facetious, so I cheered home. It's Our Time is a beauty, and his Caulfield run was really good. Aztec ruler, will they count the John Dillon in 2 weeks' time?
Well, I don't know. We've got Stefan on the program. I had a look at the program coming up, so it certainly is an option. Whether or not, I think that's 1,200, isn't it?
No, 1,400 Australia Day.
1,400's perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so it was a ripper, but that was It's Our time yesterday. Really good run. Joyful Fortune, they'd be delighted with that.
Right, Elphinston, give it strength, get some money in a soul-stirring battle against Far Flung.
Yes, Bo Merton's in really good form, and I cheered that hard. Black Book did after Pakenham, won again, and the favourite's pretty much ran to form here.
Nice. I've got to say, this Street Boss mare, she's got a real grit and will to win, hasn't she?
Yeah, you just want to filter her out the wet tracks. Keep her on these summer tracks, and she'll keep being very. And
at the mile.
Yep, for sure.
And the last, a bit of a lottery, but She's All Shenanigans just kept finding.
Oh, this one hurt. Yep, Wiggum, that was on.
Yes.
25. So that one hurt, but you make your own luck, and that's what She's All Shenanigans did, and loves it up the straight as well. So good win there from She's All Shenanigans, but Wiggum hurt. Horses to follow. I think we can pretty much put a big circle around Stormy Grove from the first race, in New York Hurricanes, the obvious.
Thank you, Ralphy. Racetrackralphy.com.au. Yeah, 7 minutes past 7 o'clock. You're listening to The Aftermath and the... Okay, Scorchers, 3 straight losses, a must-win for them Monday night against the Thunder. Looking forward to the Oz Open and seeing young Emerson Jones in action. And good luck to the Wildcats. Take care and enjoy your week. Thank you from Lisa of Allenbrook.
Now, you had one earlier. Spurs, well, 1 over last night. It was none for 12, but it was poor reading. Just to recap quickly for you, Marty.
Yes.
You didn't want to be a bowler last night. Jai Richardson, 4 overs, none for 51. And AJ Ty, who's been a beauty, an absolute ripper. Things just not going well for AJ at the moment. He bowled 4 overs, none for 62. He did get a wicket, but it was disallowed, called a no ball because it was too high. Far from the truth. Should have been a ball, legitimate ball. Should have been a wicket. But that's what happens when in that game. When if you don't get the rub of the green, you come off second best.
Okay, let's have a look at the ladder as it stands at the moment. Sixers have played 8, 1, 5 on top. Hurricanes have played 7, 1, 5. Second, Thunder played 8 for 4. Heat 8 for 3. Scorchers 8 for 3. Renegades 7 for 3. Strikers 8 for 3. Stars 8 for 3. Jeez, no team's really taken this by the scruff of the neck, have
Stand
they?
out. No, they haven't. But as I say, they have. A team has scraped in before winning 5, but the Scorchers have got the boy with the barra. Marty, they've got the job ahead of them because they'll have to win tomorrow night and then their return game later in the week. But again, it's going to be line ball, unfortunately. It may not be the Scorchers' year.
A half-time and wild card game. There is a upset brewing here. Texans 10 are leading the Chargers 6. That is at half-time in the first of our wild card playoff games today. Bradley, what else has caught your attention over there? Anything happening in the AFL? And bring us up to speed again about Petrarca. What's happened there?
Well, we know Petrarca had his issues during the year. He got bowled over on the ground, came off, went back on, shouldn't have. Spent the entirety of the 2024 season on the sidelines, started his pre-season early, came back, looked in ripping shape as he always does. And then, training a little bit of physicality on Friday, and he came off second best with a cracked rib. So they're putting him in cotton wool for a little while, and that can happen, and things like that. But other than that, most of the teams just got back into time trials on Thursday, Friday, Marty, but they'll begin in earnest pretty much on Monday. But not good news for Melbourne, who are trying to clamour up the table from around about 13th or 14th finish in 2024 to have their best player by far on the sidelines with an injury.
Okay, Rick has chimed in to say another long year for you, Marty, in the football. Yeah, I think so.
The Bombers?
Not holding any great... Oh, look. No, I'm not getting too excited. Steelers and Baltimore
Just got to let it unfold.
Yes.
Just got to let it unfold. It'll either be good or bad. I mean, you didn't expect much last year, but you were going all right early, and then it just sort of fell off. But it's going to be one of those seasons again where I think we're going to have a logjam of teams anywhere between sort of 4th and 14th.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I did. Oh, I've left it at home, but I did the averages, the complete averages, right, for and against for all teams of the league. So, and then the top 8, and then the top 2.
Oh, as in scores for and against, you mean?
Yeah. Yep. So what you average for and against for the whole league, then the top 8, and then the top 2. I put Sydney and Brisbane in there. You know what I found is the biggest gap is between the average teams and then the top 8 teams, not the top 8 teams to the top 2 teams. So that it tells you that if you can make the 8, you're in it with a chance. And we've seen that, haven't we? The last few years, those teams that have been, going along so beautifully and top of the ladder and favourites in June and July, they're not winning the flag. Remember where Brisbane were earlier on in the year, Brad?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they came from well back, further back than Kiwi, not further back than Hawthorn, but they came from a similar position. And and you're right. And even when the Lions were winning those flags in the early 2000s, they never topped the ladder.
Yeah,
the team that tops the ladder doesn't necessarily win. So you're right. It's just getting that balance right going into the final. You've got to be there to challenge with a month to play and get as high as you possibly can, and then you make your own luck from there.
Have you done a deep dive yet and sort of looking at the teams at this stage? Is there a sleeper amongst the lot that you think, everyone's sort of talking Hawthorn, getting a bit keen on Collingwood, Brisbane to do it again, all of those top 8s, are Sydney going to slide or be there again? But are you seeing, is there a team outside of the 8 that could be a big improver?
Oh, look, of course, the general and the history will tell us that that's the case. There will be a shooter there somewhere. I'm still trying to find it. Look, and last year I made my shooter I thought could be the Gold Coast, and they came up a little short. But I know they're going a lot better now, Marty. He's had his feet under the desk for a year, and he's punishing them at the moment. He's going to really. I'm expecting bigger things for them on the road. They need to. We know they can win at home. I did a bit of a dive on the average ages and everything. The Collingwood have got 9 blokes over 30. They're all in. So the Cats are all in. They've got 9 over 30. The GWS Giants have got 8 over 30. So, you can see that the clock's ticking for some of these clubs. Even my Bulldogs have got 7, and which is quite remarkable. And believe it or not, Brisbane this year, having won the flag, have got 8 blokes over 30 in their list. So, you can see... it goes without saying you're trying to improve that 10 or 15% every year. Every team's trying to do that. But if you're going to come from outside the 8, you're probably going to have to be improving 20. And that's not going to be easy. I think the bottom 4 sort of look the same. Kangas, Richmond, Eagles are in that vicinity. And then everybody else, can make their own luck. But there's a lot of big watches on, Melbourne, on Goodwin, Bulldogs with Bevo last year, coach Matthew Knights at Adelaide. People are tipping Adelaide to make the 8. I can't see that. I cannot see that. But that's not me. I'm not into Melbourne. I'm not into Adelaide. So if you're looking for a team to come from outside the 8, it has to be Fremantle's year because Longmuir, if he doesn't get it right, ta-da the goose.
0427 789 571. We want your out of the 8 shooters, a team or teams that finished outside of the 8 that can finish inside the 8. I know over the last I did the averages, the last 10 years, the average change from the top 8 to the following year is 3 teams normally come in and 3 go out. And everyone says, who's going to drop out? Well, trust me, 3 will drop out or 2 will drop out. Yep.
2 for sure.
Hey, you're excited over there in Melbourne, Brad, because the Open. This is one of the great sporting events in Australia's sporting calendar. Courtney Walsh is our man, front and square. Very good morning, Courtney.
Yeah, good morning, gents. A bit overcast this morning, but the Australian Open does begin, and as you said, Marty, without doubt in my mind, it's probably Australia's biggest sporting event. It is $900,000. I'll get through the gates over basically the 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of the tournament. The sheer money involved with it is unbelievable, having sort of attended a few different things in recent days, and you see the big companies like ASICS and all the sponsors, hosting players, different functions. I would say it's always nice to get a free beer or two here and there, guys. I'm not one to turn that down. But then to see the prize money on offer as well, and even just going back through some of the earnings of the top women, for example, and Coco Gauff pocketed about $57 million last year Australian, so that's not bad going for a woman who didn't win a Grand Slam. So there's a lot of money around in tennis, but there's also a lot of action, and that facility at Melbourne Park is really exceptional, given it's on the footstep, doorstep of the city. Those 4 big stadium courts. But it is a soft opening today, guys. It's the actual schedule for today. The draw for today is it's pretty soft. There's not a lot. Tomorrow's jam-packed with big stars, the big names. But today, realistically, we've got Aryna Sabalenka, who I would think would be very, very hard to beat as she goes for her third straight Australian Open. Now, Alexander Zverev, the French Open finalist last year, who has clearly been a top player, but realistically, he's the main man today on court. So, it's a softer opening, but it'll all really fire up tomorrow.
Courtney, good morning. As you said, you mentioned Sabalenka, you beauty. She's in line if she can get it done to be one of the immortals, really. I mean, not so many people win 3 on the trot.
No, exactly right. It's a really good point that you make, Brad. And her form on hard courts in Melbourne, but also in Australia over the last 2 years, has been exceptional. She's realistically only lost 1 match. Cantered to last year's Australian Open title, she was far and above the best player. I think she backed it up pretty well in terms of winning that US Open, which, a bit quicker the hard courts in the US. They played a little bit differently to the Australian Open to Melbourne Park, but she was, far too good there as well, winning the US Open. So the challenge for her, and I think she has got the game, will be to win at Roland Garros and win at Wimbledon, but we're focusing on this fortnight and her the calibre of the serve now that she's got over the yips, her movement, but also the ball striking, capabilities. And what she did add, basically last year was some more subtlety to the game. She wasn't just a blaster. She can absolutely belt people off the court, but she now has the touch, the angles. She thinks more on the court, and that's really made her a complete package. So without doubt, the player to beat for mine, Coco Gauff, I thought was really good. Towards the tail end of the season, a former US Open champion, and won the WTA finals, and is clearly at 20. Feels like she's been around for a while, but she's only 20 years old. So you think that she'll continue to come into her own. And then from the women's, probably Iga Swiatek has never bought what she can do at Roland Garros to Melbourne. And look, I'll be fascinated to see what unfolds here. We know she had the doping issue late last year. Whether that plays with their mind, we'll see. But there's a bit to unfold in the women's, and then in the men's, I think it's I think it's probably a race in 3. I wouldn't rule out the old man, given he's won it 10 times, and with Andy Murray in the box, clearly I think that'll add some variety with Novak Djokovic. But the two men that shared the spoils last year, Jannik Sinner, the defending champion, and Carlos Alcaraz, who won it, completed the Channel double in Paris and London, Wimbledon. They're probably the two to beat again, I would imagine.
I can tell you, Courtney, that Marty and I are barracking heavily for Jessica Pegula. She needs the money.
Not much going on with the Buffalo Bills NFL team. I do love this about Jess. An old tennis coach of mine, I know I'm speaking out of school here, but an old tennis coach of mine did love it a couple of years ago when he's been down to the tennis holiday from Ballarat and sitting down at the blackjack table, and he looks over and goes, God, I was watching you play a couple of hours ago. Jess Pegula, played a quarter, wandered downstairs and just jumped on the $25 table and was playing some cards to get, pass the time away. Very normal, no hype around her, no entourage, just she and a coach having a bit of a relaxing time. And so I think that makes you like her even more. She was beaten in Adelaide by Madison Keys overnight. He's, again, another American with a lot of talent and a lot of power. Really, really good player, Jess, and probably in that run of players outside the top couple of contenders who you would imagine if she plays well will push deep into the tournament. she's a regular quarter-finalist. Did make a breakthrough last year in New York and going a little bit further. Didn't get the title, but nice to see her sort of contending, and I think she's a pretty popular person, despite that little lack of money that the family has.
Yes, and can we go back to Sabalenka? Is she in good enough form going in, or similar form to last year, or better or worse? How would you rate her current form?
Well, I think she was very good in Brisbane, and that, for mine, was a pretty strong start to the year given the field involved. So I would argue she's probably in. And I think there was a little cloud on her last year actually coming in with a bit of an injury. There was some concern she had a little injury. So I would assess her as every bit as good as last year and possibly a little better. I think she's knowing her game even more. At mid-20s players, players do tend to know themselves and know how to get through tricky situations. And not that I reckon there's heaps that can challenge her if she's on form, but she is certainly better equipped at handling what was, once I suppose an Achilles heel. She was, quite an emotional player on the court. I think she's ironed that out of her game now. Certainly a lot more even keel on court now.
You probably heard it, Marty's and I preamble about who we think a shooter in the AFL is going to be. Have you got one for the punters out there, either on the men's or the women's side, that you think might be one that could cause a few headaches for some of these seeded players?
Look, there's a young Brazilian who has been on fire in the last sort of 6 months. He won a Challenger Tier tournament, which is the second sort of run of tournaments midway through the year in devastating finals. João Fonseca. He then went to the end of the year. He played what is called the Next Gen Final, so the best players under 21, basically 21 and under. Alex Diminor was a finalist a couple of times, lost to Sinner and Tsitsipas. So it's generally a pretty good pointer to players coming through and then going to the top. He won that in real style in Jeddah last month. But there's a lot of, it was a pretty good quality field for mine as well, like Arthur Fees, who Diminor beat in a fourth round at Wimbledon, 6 months ago. He was in that field, and Fonseca handled it with care. He comes to Canberra, plays another sort of challenger, wins that with ease, has to qualify for the Australian Open and raced through qualifying, just dominant in some of those matches, winning set 6-love, which you don't often see in men's tennis, no matter the sort of level. So he, for mine, is someone who I suspect you'll see knocking on the top 10 within a couple of years. And I think he's capable of taking out some big, big names. And there's another Frenchman who Kyrgios played a couple of weeks ago, Perricard, who has got a gigantic serve. He predominantly serve. It's a huge serve, a huge weapon. He sort of shot through the ranks last year. Big wins because that serve is such a weapon. So, again, he's someone who, if he's on, you wouldn't want to face him because that serve is just dynamic and very hard to beat. So, young Frenchman, certainly the Brazilian. And then, look, I suppose from an Australian perspective, they're now mid-20s, but people like Popperin Popperin is certainly playing well. And look, Diminor will be there and thereabouts. He's, if one of the big two falls over, that will help because, then you only have to beat the other one. Sinner in the quarterfinal if he can get there, is a problem because he's never beaten Sinner, but maybe no one beats Alex Diminor 10 times in a row. You never know.
Okay, and what about then from the women's point of view?
From the women's, it's a little more up and down because every time you sort of identify someone, they look really talented. And I think the gap, we've always seen really good teenagers challenge. We saw Hingis obviously was an outstanding teenager. Jelena Dokic was an outstanding teenager. So we've had players in the past that have come through and done really well. Mira Andreeva, who has been around now for a couple of years, she is outstanding. She's now 17. She was a French Open semi-finalist last year. Did beat Sabalenka in the French, but Sabalenka was actually she was around well. I think that was accepted. But to make a Grand Slam semi-final at 16 is a pointer that she's a real star. So I would be looking very much for Mira Andreeva as a player who can go very, very well here as well. She's genuinely a top line player.
Just reading in the prize money, it's obviously parity these days. Can you just let the listeners know exactly what money they're praying for this year? And I think it's even pretty fruitful to even if you lose in the first round.
Yeah, look, I've got to say I haven't actually checked the exact figures this year, Brad, but I think it was 100,000 last year, so I suspect it'll be about 105 or so for first-round losers this year. And based on, I think it was about 3.5 last year for the men, so I'd imagine it's around the same for the men's and women's, about 3.5 and 3.6 or something like that.
Yeah, $3.5 million for the winner. It's not bad, is it? Not bad, Dukes.
Yeah.
And, I think you're right. I think I read somewhere that it was 200,000 if you win the first round. So that's not bad.
Yeah, if you make. Yeah, and it's an interesting one. I think you talked about this last September in America. There's a young Aussie woman called Maya Joint who, look, American raised, but certainly Melbourne parents, and she gave up basically 200,000 US. So we're talking about the Aussie peso at 3.5 million. Not quite the 200,000. Yeah, it's not quite a par at the moment. She gave up 200,000 US and make it the second round because she was still at college. She's had a few good results since and decided maybe I don't need that academic degree. So when you're going to give up another 100,000 to at least play in here, she's certainly a really talented player. I think they've thought maybe we can pocket some money at the moment and not go to university and worry about that scholarship.
Hey, Courtney, let's wrap this up with our winners. So, Sabalenka, we're locking her in.
I am locking Sabalenka in. I think she's very, very strong. And look, there's not a lot of value here, but I would be, thinking that Sinner again is the man to beat. So, he's outstanding on hard courts. Alcaraz has been tinkering with the serve, and we know he's absolutely brilliant. But I just think Sinner on hard courts is, a fantastic player. And when you talk to guys who have played him, they're puzzled by how well he can hit it. As a little, just someone to watch at odds probably late during the week. Amanda Anisimova, who is a really talented American who's had injury worries, went to college after, she made a semi-final, lost to Ash Barty in 2019. On hard courts, she can really play. She'll be absolutely under the radar, but I think she'll play Swiatek in the third round. If they get there, the American is probably worth a little look because she'll be an outsider. So it's one where, if she's fit and firing, she's every bit as good as any of those players in the top 10, particularly on a hard court. So just if you're listening, keep an eye on her, particularly if she draws Swiatek in the third round. There's an upset possibility there, I would imagine. Okay, beautifully done, Courtney. Can't wait for this one to get underway today. Thanks for coming on. We'll listen to you all week and next week as well during the Sports Daily and here on the Aftermath. Might even get you on drive and wrap up a couple of days' play as well. Absolute pleasure. I mean, I would have liked to have talked about the Perth Scorchers, Marty, or we're not talking about them now.
No, we'll just leave them for a bit. They're just simmering away.
Day, guys.
See you, mate.
Take care.
Oh, these Victorians. They can't help themselves, Brad, can they? Hey?
No. What was that? What was that carrier that had the Mike Tyson fight? Was it Dazn or what was it called? That buffering all the time. We couldn't hear him properly.
Yeah. Time for a break.
Racing. Flying out Curious Georgia with Wisebarra, Sunset Nightjar, Aston Costello, then Surf the Sun, Barbecue Man railing. Well back is Uncle Tommy and Sunset Mirage. Curious Georgia by a couple. Over Sunset Nightjar, Barbecue Man's lengthening on the fence. Curious Georgia's in front. Barbecue Man's bursting through on the rail. They hit it. Photo. Barbecue Man or Curious Georgia. It's a head bobber. Sunset Nightjar third.
Okay, there it is. The finish of the Group 2 Greyhounds WA Birthday Cup at Mandurah on Friday. This was a big valued race. It was a terrific finish. Barbecue Man gets through along the inside. Joining us is Ryan Levitzke, our own
over
Ryan
Curious
Levitzke,
Georgia,
who joins us
Sunset
to talk about this.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Brad.
What a win first
Good morning, Rhino.
First off, the win. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, this was a satisfying win because this dog has not had much luck with injuries. He's also a very strange-looking dog. His mum was black, his dad was black, and he came out looking like a hyena. And all of a sudden, he just started trialling these ridiculous times. And the problem for him, like he's just turned 4 years old, so he probably won't race again. But the problem for him, he couldn't string more than 3 or 4 starts together without going sore. So to get a run as a reserve and finally win a trophy with one of the quickest dogs around was very satisfying.
Ron, congratulations. 2 things. People like yourself, Peter O'Neill, Dazza, etc. It's hard enough to to be calling races, but when you've actually got a bit of skin in the game, how much harder does it make it?
Well, yeah, it did make it hard, but because it was so close and unexpected, if he was $1.50, it might have been different. But yeah, I didn't really mind. I just called it normally.
I love the way in your call, Ryan, early in the call you say Barbecue Man railing through. At that point, when you're calling this race, are you is there 1% of your brain just drifting back, could he? Or you're just totally focused on calling what you're seeing?
No, I definitely knew he could win from there. Yeah, because they're all the best dogs around, so I know them back to front. I know the leader's vulnerable late. I know there's room on the fence in front of him, which was quite unexpected because he was last out. He was 8th after 50 metres.
Yep.
Dropped to the rail, clear run, and won by a nose.
What about the finish? What did you think?
Did you think it
live? No. Live I was probably 40-60 because, Mandra's changed, and from where we sit, if they ever hit it locked together, it's either a dead heat or the outside. So, yeah, I wasn't all that confident. Jesse Earnshaw texted me after and said, geez, I didn't think that one live.
No, I've watched it several times and figured that, but who cares? It's in the frame, that's for sure. Tell us a little bit more about some of the issues that the dogs had.
Just the same left wrist all the time. Mm-hmm. He's a mad railer. He actually scraped it when he was younger a few times, and it's just the left wrist kept going, and he's pulled up well, but I think we might just put him out to pasture now. Wow,
41 starts, 19 wins, Ryan. He's been a terrific servant, hasn't he?
He has. We raced the mum as well, Phosphine. She was very good. Couldn't get 500, so she could never win, a rich race. But it's just been a good little ride. I'd named him after my dad because he was born on the same day as my dad, and he basically just drinks 3 stubbies every night and sits around a barbecue cooking his own bacon, so I named him after him.
A very simple man, Ryan.
Oh, yeah, loves it. Bets on everything, but bets $2. Just, simple man.
Tell us about Paul Stewart, wonderful trainer, and your association with him.
Yeah, he is. He is a wonderful trainer, and I saw him before race 1. And, he never visits me. He sent me a text. He said, are you in the tower? I said, yep. Anyway, so he visited me, and I thought, that's a bit weird. And I could just tell he knew that Barbecue Man with a clear run would go very close. But, we've had Campini with him, who started second favourite in a Melbourne Cup, the same ownership group. So he's got the Cannington track record, Campini. He was just too fast for his own good. Didn't really do all that well in traffic. So, he didn't win any silverware, yet he is the fastest dog in the last 10 years in WA.
Ryan, you sound like you've had a little bit of a good fortune in the Cape. Is this one of your biggest thrills?
We had a stayer that won the Brisbane Gold Cup a couple of years ago, We the People. So, no, this would be second.
Mm-hmm. But still sounds like it's resonating with you. I can hear it in your voice.
I drank about half a bottle of rum when I got home and watched the race 100 times.
Beautiful.
I was also in the doghouse because he got a run as a reserve. I forgot to tell my wife.
Uh-oh.
One of the other owners rocked up with the whole family and are in the photo. And after the win, I was walking back up to the commentary box and I thought, oh, no, I'm going to have to ring her. So I ripped the Band-Aid off. And, she was pretty good about it, to be honest. But, I was in my office drinking rum by myself until 2 o'clock.
Oh, well, that works. Don't worry. Now, Summer Chase heats were on last night at Cannington. And this hot dog, Levitzke, trained by your man, Paul Stewart. Tell us about that win.
I haven't watched it, Marty.
Oh.
Haven't watched it, but honestly, that dog, when it went to Sydney, put in some massive runs against the best dogs around. It is definitely a star on the up.
And have you got a star on the up in the kennel we can follow going forward? Now you're going to retire Barbecue Man?
Yes, nothing that'll win a feature race. Nothing that'll win a feature race, but there is a dog called Action Shot that you might want to keep an eye out in maybe 2 weeks at Cannington.
Action Shot Cannington's in our book. And a special mention from Kevin Scott at the Esperance Bay Turf Club. We were
greatest man ever.
Interviewing Scotty a couple of weeks ago, and he then mentioned about the fact that the Esperance Bay Turf Club has been a great training ground for commentators, race broadcasters, and the first name he mentioned was the great Ryan Levitzke.
Yeah, well, he's a champion, that guy, and yeah, I gained a lot of confidence at Esperance, as I did at Perry Lakes under your tutelage, Marty.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Esperance is how close you are to the back straight. You've got Esperance, which is just an easy kill, and then other young callers get sent to Carnarvon, which can cook your confidence. Yep. Geraldton is the same, and Esperance was just a lovely way to ease into it.
Righto, you're a beauty. You're part of our family.
Just a couple of quick ones.
Yep.
Just a couple of quick. Are you taking the Minister for Domestic Affairs out for a celebratory lunch today to get back in the good books?
Well, I might cook a breakfast, but I've got a couple of questions for Brad if I can
yes,
indulge myself as a Bulldog supporter.
Yes.
The first one's easy.
Yes.
It's a yes or no question. At the start of 2015, did Luke Beveridge promise every senior listed player that was fit at least one AFL game?
Roundabouts, yes.
Beautiful.
What he was meant by that was a clean canvas that everybody had to earn their spot. So everybody had a chance to do that. Yep.
It just felt like a lot of players in the VFL in those last 5 or 6 games were given one. Even in the last game, a guy called Tim Callan played at fullback.
That's right.
And then
Timmy,
delisted a week later, and they were in the finals. So I just always wanted to know that. And the other one, can you keep it simple, but Ryan Griffin?
Yes. Yeah.
Totally. And needed a new start?
No. Totally disappointed. I mean, the coach of the day stuffed that up. So, that wasn't anything to do with, that was pre-Bevo. So, Brendan McCartney stuffed that up, and he should never have left the club. And I've got one quick one for you. You've probably been asked this a gazillion times. Brent Levitzke, any relation? Play for the Royals?
Yes, he's my father, the great Brent Levitzke. He played for...
Is that right?
It is, yes.
I did not know that.
22.
I did not know that. When you said barbecue man, and you didn't say his name. No, he's a good player too. I just thought that's because every time I saw you, I thought, I wonder if he is. I meant to ask Marty, but that is fantastic. We'll give him my regards. He's a super bloke. I really enjoyed it, and a very good footballer too.
Yeah, he always had a soft. When I started going for the Bulldogs when I was 6, he thought I was crazy, but he always said, Brad Hardie's from WA, and he was one of the best. But so I've been playing old man footy, Masters footy for the mighty Mandramacos, and I reckon every third old fella down there goes, any relation to Brent? They're all footy heads.
Now he's related to you.
Yeah, exactly, after last night. Beautifully done, Ryan. All the best.
Well done.
All right.
Go cook up the bacon and eggs. There he goes, Ryan Levitzke. Always good to catch up with Rhino. What a night it was for him and Barbecue Man last night.
On the Aftermath, you are listening to Marty Young and Brad Hardie on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yeah, we're talking NBL with Chris Pike. Wildcats hit the court against the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers today, and Pikey joins us. Very good morning, Chris.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
How things and how the Wildcats going to go in this match against the Tassie Jack Jumpers?
Yeah, fascinating game. I mean, the Jack Jumpers, you just can't ever write them off. You can't. They just find ways to win games that they have no rights of winning. So the Wildcats should win this game. There's no reason that they shouldn't. They're fresh. They haven't played since they beat. They had that really good win last week. They've been doing well on the road. They've won 4 or 5. In this road stretch, and they've set themselves up nicely, so there's no excuse. They get Christian Doolittle back as well, who's missed the last month of action. So on paper, it's a game that they should win because the Jack Jumpers are missing two of their most important players. Sean McDonald's out for the rest of the season. He's their starting point guard. He was a big reason why they went on that 8-game winning streak. Will Magnay's the best big man in the competition, and he's out for the season as well. But gee, the Jack Jumpers on Friday night, I think that's one of the most remarkable wins I've seen against the odds. Against an Adelaide team that's been playing really well. They found a way to get that game to overtime, first of all, and then to win on overtime with an offensive rebound to Milton Doyle. It was an amazing win. You might have seen the vision of Scott Roth celebrating afterwards. You could see what it meant to him. So they're coming off the high of that. It was, and all of a sudden that was only just over 36 hours ago, and now they're playing this game in a couple of hours' time. So, yeah, who knows? The Wildcats on paper should win this game, but if anyone can find a way to win a game that they shouldn't win again, it'll be the Jack Jumpers. So it'll be a fascinating game to see how it unfolds.
Morning to you, Chris. Brad, mate, and thanks for your efforts during the week. Very, very, very much appreciated. The Wildcats welcome a couple back today, though, don't they? Or they got a couple of maybe ready to come back in?
Yeah, absolutely. So Christian Doolittle's missed the last month with that groin injury, and yeah, he's such an important player. He's their best defender. He's their best rebounder, and he just makes everything click. So yeah, he'll make a really big difference. So they've done well to hold down the fort without him. They've gone 4-1 so far on the road without him, but they get him back. And Dylan Windler's been great without him, rebounding and scoring, but he just makes everyone else around him better. So he takes a little bit of the pressure off Bryce Cotton as well, just by being another scoring threat out there. So. Yeah, like I said, there's no reason the Wildcats shouldn't win this game, except that the Jack Jumpers just find ways to compete and to win. So, yeah, the Wildcats should win, but, yeah, again, don't be shocked if Tasmania find a way to pull out another miracle.
Okay, Tab Touch have Perth 185 and Tassie 195 at this stage. Perth third on the ladder and Tassie are 6, but they've both got 12 wins. Tassie have played the one extra game. This is a massive game as far as the context of the season goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's third against 6th, but it's 12-9 against 12-10. So, yeah, if the Wildcats want to finish top 2, this is the sort of game they need to win. So you finish top 2, you're guaranteed of being in one of the 2 semi-final series. So finishing top 2 is crucial. So, yeah, this is a big game for them because they finished with 5 of their last 6 at home. So if they can do well today and then they go to Brisbane on Wednesday night and they should win that game, the Bullets are going to struggle to even field a team on Wednesday night. So they should if they can get this game and then get Wednesday night, they're in a really, really good spot to finish top 2. So this is a big game in terms of where they end up finishing as well.
All right, just a hypothetical. If they finish top 2 or top 3 where they are at the moment, can they beat Illawarra and Melbourne?
I think they can beat Melbourne. Melbourne are a little bit shaky. So Melbourne have got a lot of work to do to still finish top 2. The Hawks are a different kettle of fish because they have struggled against the Hawks. We saw last time they played, they lost by 32 points to them. The Hawks are tough because they play at a fast pace, they put up a lot of points, and they're also pretty good defensively. They can give up a lot of points, and last night they gave up 100 to New Zealand, but they play good defensively. It's just that they give up a lot of points because they create so many more possessions in their games because they play so fast. So, yeah, I'm not sold they can beat the Hawks because I just don't think defensively they can do enough to stop them defensively. But they can beat anybody else. So the Kings, now they've had their import issue, I think that they can beat the Kings. They can beat the Phoenix, especially now that the Phoenix have got an injury problem with Derek Walton Jr. again. And we'll find out today how they can beat the Jack Jumpers. The Hawks are the real problem. I think if they can finish top 2, they'll end up making a grand final series, but I think they'd be just hoping it's anybody but Illawarra they would end up playing if they do get there.
You had a longer range tip for me during the week. Who do you think can win it? Oh, we know anybody can win it out of that, certainly that top 3 or 4. But you've got a bit of a fancy, haven't you?
Yeah, originally when we chatted on Monday night, the Sydney Kings were looking pretty good, and all of a sudden that import they had signed, Lamonte Turner, he's already gone home. He's already been sent home, so he never hit the court. He didn't pass his physical, and that didn't happen. And now they don't have time to bring in another import. So I'm a little bit less optimistic about the Kings, but one team I am optimistic about, and I mentioned it on Monday night, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So They've done a great job ever since they made their coaching change. They won again last night. They looked really good last night. Matt Hurd was terrific. Nathan Sobey was on a revenge mission against his former Brisbane team, and there's a little bit of bad blood there. He had a lot of words to say to Justin Schiller, his former coach, and some of his former teammates, including some that got injured last night, which is going to create some extra spice when they play again. But, yeah, the Phoenix won again. They won by 19 points. And it was a close game up until early in the third quarter. So they're on a really good tear. Ever since they've made that coaching change, they've gone 12-5, and I would be surprised if they end up at least finishing in the top 2. So the only concern now is how bad Derek Walton Jr.'s hamstring injury is. But the Phoenix keep on winning, and they're the team to me that you really need to keep an eye on now for the rest of the way.
Okay, one more game today. Kings play Taipans. They take care of business at 10.5 points.
Oh, they should, but, gee, last time the Taipans played, they beat Illawarra, so, and they haven't played since, so they're nice and fresh. But, gee, if the Kings want to do anything this season, they have to win this game. They have to win it comfortably. So they're at home. They need to bounce back after losing to Melbourne on Thursday. So, yeah, I think at the line, the Kings should get this done, but... yeah, again, anything can happen, as we saw last time the Taipans played.
Hey, Chris, there's plenty of games to come early in the week as well. We'll listen to you on Drive. Thanks for coming on the Aftermath this morning.
Yeah, games every single day, so plenty for us to talk about. Thanks very much, guys.
Okay, Houston 10 lead, LA 6.
Radio, racing and sport.
Every Sunday morning, like a lullaby to a baby's ear. Marty Young and Brad Hardie entertaining you on the Aftermath on Tab Radio, Racing and Sport.
Counting it down, Vahala not too far away. A couple of bolters from the bottom 8. Collingwood and Fremantle, that's from James. And Chris says St Kilda and Gold Coast. Okay, can make a... guys to climb this season, Dockers, Collingwood, Melbourne, Adelaide Dogs. That is from Elisa. So she's going full on as well for that bottom half of the 8. Just before we get to Vahala, what about your Sunday saviour for today?
Yeah, apologies if the markets have changed since I put this down, because obviously we've been on air a few hours. Sometimes they do change. I'm going to Coffs Harbour Race 1, number 3, Shaggy. That's named after you, Marty.
Price $1.50.
Put in. Yeah. Put in, take out there. Then we'll go to the Sunny Coast Race 2, number 14, Kenny the Baker, $2.90.
Kenny and Shaggy.
Not the Kenny the ablution cleaner. And now a Race 3, number 2, Mega Fight, second favourite, $4. So $1.50 for Shaggy, $2.90 for Kenny the Baker, and $4 for Mega Fight. $17.40 there, Marty.
Now it was
our ardent followers.
Can you give me
Ginger?
Can you give me race and number?
Race 3, number 2.
3-2.
Yeah. 3-2.
Okay.
Yep.
Steph Vahala, a very good morning.
Morning, Marty. Morning, Brad. How are we?
First off, may we say, it was very close on the line. How did you feel the whole day, the whole experience being there at Flemington, and how did Aztec Ruler pull up after the second in the Standish?
Yeah, he's pulled up amazing. I took him for a pick this morning, and he smashed his dinner, and he's nice and bright. So, he loved it. My experience was pretty amazing. Like, sort of, let's be honest, Flemington's sort of the mecca for racing, isn't it? Sort of the holy grail, and just to have a runner there was probably a dream come true for me, and to nearly win a group race there was, next level. So definitely celebrated.
Congratulations. Why wouldn't you, Steph? Congratulations. Fantastic effort, mate. Now, was it John McNeil not liking Jamie Carr, or was it Aztec Ruler not liking Perreault? Because they seem to have their own race within a race there for about 400.
Yeah. I think we got her out the gates, and then, I think she was trying to get us the whole way rest of the race, trying to get us out into the open. So, but hey, that's racing. It's competitive in Australia, so you got to deal with those bumps. But my bloke was amazing. We had every chance to win, and just dropping back to the 1200 might have just an extra 20 metres. I think we get there, but I think stepping up to 1400 metres next start is going to be hard to beat.
So before we go to that next race, when did you hatch the plan to go across for the Standish?
It was more when he pulled up from the Gold Rush, and he pulled up amazing, and we haven't had any issues with him this prep, and he's just such a happy horse, and I didn't want to fall into that sort of plan of, you're having your 4 or 5 races in winter, 4 or 5 races in summer against the same horses year in, year out. It's just hard to win, especially like he's as good as those horses, but he's definitely not better than them. So he needs everything to go his way to win one of those. And at least when you come over here, you're just racing against different horses all the time. And that Group 3 listed level, they're always changing, and it just gives you a bit better chance to win some races.
Yeah.
So,
what was the instructions to? What was the instructions to Jai, or you just left it to him? Because some horses like to run in the clear. He was looking for cover. And of course, as you say, he certainly, as you say, the 1400 next start, which is in a fortnight's time. Yeah,
2 weeks' time at Caulfield. Yep. The instructions to Jai. To be honest, I've been watching the way Chris rides him, because obviously Chris has got the best out of him, and it's sort of the instructions to Jai were just hold on to him to the 300, and before you put him into the race, because that seems to be how he sort of finishes off the best. And he rode him amazing. First time on him, and he's a very good rider, Joe.
So where did you stable over there?
We're at Troy Corson's stable in Flemington. So lovely setup, and Troy's an amazing guy, and he's helping us out heaps. So.
Well, so close so far.
Having a good run too.
Yeah, so close so far, but it was a terrific effort. I just love the whole story about it, and let's hope in a fortnight over that 1400 at Caulfield around a bend. That was the other thing we haven't mentioned. First time up the straight. Normally horses do get a little bit lost. He went up there like he'd done it 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing horse. Like, obviously he's not that sort of top level horse, but he's just, in our eyes, he's a freak, and he just handles everything. Like, we flew out Tuesday, raced Saturday, and like you say, up the straight for the first time, and he just does everything you ask of him.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for having a crack. All WA was on with you there yesterday. Fantastic effort.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely love that story. Would have been better if he'd won, but just the fact that he thinks outside of the square and takes a horse there to almost win a group race, a Standish, a time-honoured race as well. Well done to him.
Yeah, I would like to have had a heart monitor on him at 150.
Oof. Now, Bradley, for Retrovision, all your great sponsors, thanks for coming on the show today.
All the best, Bart. See you, Soph.